Yo, welcome to episode 126. Dave and I absolutely wing our way through this, but I think we have a pretty solid conversation. The narrative was around what we would do or what advice we would give somebody who is just starting out, things to look out for, things to take into consideration, and how we sort of navigated ourselves or advice that we give. We also get into some article that Dave hopefully is going to send me a link to that will be in the show notes that was very beneficial on 7 things that will help you live longer. So tune in and enjoy. You know that there has had to have been some sacrifice, whether it's time or nutrition or whatever it is.
Recording of myself talking about having a relationship with my chest.
I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Health Podcast. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 126. Dave has decided that he's going to dress up and did not give me the memo, so I apologize.
Listen, you just got to always expect the unexpected with me. Obviously, I had a customer meeting this morning, so I had to dress up. So I am, but I will say, I did get my workout in very early this morning, earlier than I normally woke up. I woke up at 5:30 to get my legs workout done and knocked it out in less than an hour. It was actually 47 minutes for a leg workout, and it was actually probably one of the best leg workouts that I've ever done in my entire life.
Well, I was thinking this whenever you were texting me. I was like, are you finding it better spending less time in the gym? Because this was something that we've approached a couple of times, but
yeah,
it was difficult for you to get your head around, or for me to persuade you, I guess is probably a better way to put it.
It's interesting on training intensities, right? There's a few different ways you can look at training. One, strength, you typically need longer periods of time in between to allow your muscles to kind of recover to go then, put yourself under kind of heavy duress again. Whereas, endurance, muscle hypertrophy, size and growth endurance, you can usually, kind of go through fairly quickly, and you don't need a lot of time in between to recover from a muscle group perspective. And so, what I've always typically done is a combination of both, which is, my deadlifts would take me sometimes an hour. My squats would sometimes take me an hour because I'm spending so much time doing very heavy loads and giving myself a lot of recovery in between that, I saw skyrocketing strength, but maybe didn't necessarily maximize the amount of growth options I had in those areas. So what I'm finding with these leg workouts is that the time in between is extremely important. And just kind of getting them done. That C-bum workout, man, today was ridiculous. It was so stupid. Like, it starts off with no warm-up sets, by the way, just 4 leg extension sets, then 3 drop sets after that. Like, nice. What the fuck?
Sets the tone straight away.
Yeah, I'm like, this is going to be a horrible day. Like, if we're doing already drop sets, like essentially run the rack, with
at 5 in the morning.
Yeah, at 5 in the morning, my first workout part. And then he goes into squats, which has 2, warm-up sets and then 3 working sets. Then right from squats to hack squats, I'm like, what is going on? I got to the hack squats. I'm like, I'm dead. So then I did leg curls. Then I did air squats, like 20 air squats. And I don't normally incorporate those types of things. I'm usually almost always using weights. And I did have a dumbbell in place, but by the time I got done with the workout routine, I was drenched in sweat, and I sent you that video, but I could not get my shoe on.
Still got those shoes on?
I could not get my shoe on. I'm sitting there like my leg physically won't move to me to be. So I literally put them on like slippers. When you have like the back part, you can't get your leg. Yeah, I literally was wearing them like slippers because I couldn't get them up. And then I had to walk up the steps, and I'm in a hurry because like I have to get showered, into a suit, out to a customer. It's like 45 minutes away. So I get up the steps. I'm like, I'm not making it. I'm just going to call quits. I'm just going to call in sick. I'm not, because my legs were not functioning the appropriate way. So, training intensity definitely.
I'm not coming. The company's closed. We're done. I'm just going to die.
Shut it down. My legs, are not behaving today. So, but it was pretty interesting to kind of go through. It's actually probably the first time I have done that level of intensity on a legs workout, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because I'm normally pausing again. And obviously when I'm working out with you, it's very intense as well, but you have the pauses in between, when you're working out, we're working out that, you get that time period, whereas you literally got a minute and a half of break in between each one. and you're just continuously rolling through. And like I said, I did a full leg workout in 45 minutes, 47 minutes, without, basically without any pauses whatsoever. I'm like, and I'm complaining the whole time, obviously, like, this is, very upset.
60 seconds is not a long time. And it definitely has made me realize that I apologize to all of my clients that I've ever put 60-second rest in. I'm like, that is not a long time to get your shit together.
Nice. No, that's not nice at all.
I actually,
it's not friendly.
Whenever we just first started with the app, I sent it to Matt because he's been looking for something just for programming. And he sent me a screenshot being like, what the fuck? Like, I was not expecting. It's like, it was like rear delt something, and it was like 40 reps. He was like, I did not sign up for this shit. So he's feeling the same pain that we are, literally.
Yeah. It was funny because like I get to the squats part of it, and I'm using the Smith machine, and normally I can load up like 385, 405, but I loaded 2 plates on it, and I could barely get to 12. So I'm doing 180, like basically half the amount, and I literally get to 12, and my legs are already shaking because it's only my second exercise, but because I'd already done run the rack with the leg extensions, I was already like my legs were like messed up already, from it. They're like, what is going on here? And then I'm like, okay, I did 2 warm-up sets. That was supposed to be a warm-up set. I couldn't even get to 12 in my warm-up set. So I get to my warm-up sets, and I do the 3 normal sets, and then he's like, three sets of hack squats. I'm like, mother of God, like what is? And then it was the drop set after that. There was 2 drop sets for the hack squats. I'm like, yeah, it was ridiculous. I'm still very upset with Chris Bumstead at the moment. I'm going to write him a letter about how upset I am for the program. Dear Chris, if this is what it takes to be an IFBB bodybuilder, I quit.
I never wanted to be Mr. Olympia anyway. Fuck you.
Yeah, I know. You just solidified my career choices at this point in time. So, no, but it was, I will say it's great to kind of have a timer there. And when I move off of this program, I do have one of those like select timers where it's like it like clips onto your shirt, and you hit the button, and then it counts down from a minute or 2, I think up to 2 minutes or whatever. Mm-hmm. I never used them because I always had like a 5-minute interval between my heavy ones, so I'd have to get my time. So I never used it, but I'm absolutely going to go back to that thing, that little vibrating clip, because I think how fast I can get in and out of the gym now is so much better. I mean, like I literally, and even so my New Year's resolution was to stop effing around to get to the gym, and then to focus at the gym. So I don't bring my laptop down ever anymore. Never bring my laptop down. I just won't do it. The second thing I do is I when I'm going through the workout routine, when I'm getting ready and prepped, I don't spend a lot of time. So I woke up at 5 o'clock, I woke up at 5:30 this morning, and I was in the gym by 6 a.m. So, that includes, getting changed, today was a Wednesday, so it's TRT day. So I inject testosterone, got changed, got my pre-workout in, and I was down by 6 o'clock. So only a half-hour window to go and do all of that. And then by 7 o'clock, I was upstairs showering, getting ready to go into work. So it just worked out, absolutely perfect. And something that I'm going to be trying to hold myself to more of a standard. Cause like I would notice that like in the mornings I would go and work out, or I'd get my pre-workout ready, and I'd putz around for like 30 minutes, and then it's 45 minutes, then it's an hour. So anyways, it was insane. Anyways.
Yeah, I think that the thing for me is like the time thing is a big aspect of it. And I'm like, oh, by the time I get to the gym, it's 20 minutes. And then if it takes me an hour and a half, then it's 20 minutes back. I'm like, I almost can't justify it. And I realize that sounds ridiculous, but now knowing that it's going to take me less than an hour, I'm more inclined to go and just get it done. And the work capacity done in that hour is definitely more intense. And as I said last week, like the not being distracted by your phone or doing emails or on Twitter or whatever, because you're like just trying to get your breath, and then you get the notification and like, shit, right, I gotta start again, I gotta go again.
Well, I literally stopped in between just to complain once, and then I had to go back and go do it again. Like, so I had enough time in between to complain and then move on. So
you only had that one option to text me that one time to complain about it, then get back to it.
Yes Yeah, my legs are still definitely feeling good, but aside from that, things are actually going really good. I'm still dealing with like a weird shoulder thing. Like, and I got to talk to you about this, but like I can normally like load up, 125 for 5 to 7, rep ranges. And I can do that with my right, no problem. My left, I can barely put like 50 pounds above my head for 5. So I'm dealing with like a weird, like it doesn't hurt. It just feels really weak. So hopefully I don't have to build that back up again. That would suck.
That would suck. But if we have to do it, we'll do it.
You got to do what you got to do.
That's it.
Are weird.
Yes, our bodies are weird, but yes, I think if we need to talk about it, obviously we can talk about it for sure.
Yeah.
For
So how
sure.
are you doing, dude?
I am doing good. There is lots of shit going on, so I'm just going to drop it all on you. Some stuff I don't even know if you know about, and I will say this, and I've said
What?
this. What? I will say this. With all the stuff that's going on, I'm in the position where I don't really know who knows what, so I'm just not saying anything to anybody. But all this stuff will be public knowledge soon enough. I'm no longer going to do daily vlogs, and this is me telling everybody. I made the decision today that I think there would be more value in me doing a weekly vlog. So we're going to move to that because the daily vlogs, my life isn't interesting enough for me. Like I do the same shit every single day. So we're going to move to weekly vlogs. That's the one thing. We're like super close to the launch. I think I've talked about this a couple of times of like the full sort of marketing campaign. So I've built out a productivity lead magnet. I've built out, or I'm in the process of building out, and I need to talk to you about this because you committed to doing one, a 7-day webinar series as a lead magnet. So I'm going to do one, Travis is doing one, Adam's doing one, Sean's doing one, Kira's doing one, and you are obviously going to do one.
Sounds good.
And Lorena, of course. So that's almost ready to go. I need that by next Friday, and this is me telling you this now. So for everybody who's listening to this on Tuesday of this week, make sure Dave has it to me by Friday because everything is being launched on Monday. I've also built out like a bit of a scoring system just for people to sort of rate where they're at on all fronts of health, fitness, cardio, time management, caffeine dependence, sleep, nutrition. So I've built that out on a score app, and I'll be able to put that out to everybody to sort of see where they can evaluate like where they're at based on questions that they answer, and obviously give them feedback. So that's going full send from Monday the 22nd with the idea of, I'll say this, and this comes from my experience, and I'm not taking anybody, I'm not sort of tarring everybody with the same brush. From my experience with coaching, usually by the end of January, everybody realized they don't have a fucking clue what they're doing, and everything, their motivation in terms of the gym is starting to sort of teeter a little bit. So the goal is to start to launch this, like everybody has tools to sort of keep them on board and then ultimately get them within the space of the WeHackHealth community, whether it's in the Discord or whether it's within the client community. So it's just sort of to push this out to the masses, essentially, with some things that are going to be beneficial. So all that's going on at the minute, which is cool, and having a deadline to it, which is cool. It just means that everybody who's involved knows when things need to go live. So it was cool to sort of go through that. Today, I've just been catching up with clients. I've literally had back-to-back calls from like 9 a.m. Don't know if I mentioned, but I got a nice bath, so I was in that this morning. Definitely something I think that you should... Definitely something that I feel like you should try. But yeah, that's everything that's going on at the minute. I think that I'm excited to sort of see, because this sort of like lead magnet and marketing stuff is something that I've been working on for the past probably about 2.5-3 months. Basically going into it with blind faith that it is going to be beneficial to people and actually have some sort of impact. So now they're at the stage that it's almost ready to launch. I'm excited to see what the sort of feedback and what it looks like, and it's something I'm going to lean heavily on. And actually, one of the reasons,
amazing.
The new site, yeah, thanks. But yeah, things like that to just sort of tidy things up. And this is one reason that I've sort of taken a step back from taking any one-to-one clients on. It's just basically I want to be able to provide more value to the masses and having the time to actually do that. And I'm fortunate enough to obviously have the team in place to sort of take the reins in terms of programming, coaching, and other bits and pieces. I have a plan even with Travis. At the minute he's handling programming and managing that side of things. And then within the next couple of months, I'm going to sort of set him up with his own client base within WeHackHealth, which again, excited for. So we'll talk more about that whenever. Actually, I keep saying this, but we need to get him on the podcast too. We could do that in person. Park that,
yeah.
But we'll get him on the podcast because I think it'd be good to sort of introduce him and not people just hear us talk about Travis and who the hell is fucking Travis.
I was over last weekend with Travis, moving a machine over to his place from my place to his place. So yeah, been doing a lot of that. He's got a full gym setup now because of me. So.
He's got all the stuff that you have replaced over time.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, actually, the event was happening this weekend, so it'll be good to sort of see what the feedback was at. But yeah, so for me, the goal is to start to, because obviously, we've been in this podcast for 2.5 years. People know who I am. People know what WeHackHealth is. So it's start to introduce the rest of the team and sort of see what's going on. So we'll get everybody on the podcast. We'll schedule that. We'll get everybody obviously in the webinar series to see what it is that they actually do. And then we're building out sort of like a collaborative coaching program, which will be cool as well. So yeah, I mean, it's all go. I'm just excited to sort of see what happens.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. I'm excited for the expansion, what you guys are doing, but I'm looking forward to the 13th. I'm not sure what Travis has planned, but I'm sure it's pain and suffering. But I may get
it
my
absolutely will be. Like, I've had a conversation with him, and he's like, he understands the way that I program and the way that people have trained, but he's like, I'm going to put in a little bit of element of myself in that. And I'm like, everybody's going to fucking hate that. But yes, I support this decision, but I know that people are going to be like, what the fuck?
Is there any Bulgarian split squats? Because if so, I'm going to be might come down with a sickness that day.
I mean, and there will be many, many, many Bulgarian. I'll actually text them specifically saying, remember to add both.
Oh man, I'm coming out with a cough. Jeez, feeling good. So,
but yes, I'm excited for that. And then, I mean, I'm not going to say secret stuff again because we've said that.
Secret stuff is always going good.
Yeah, it is going good.
But yeah. Well, so for today's topic, I was thinking. So I had a friend of mine on Facebook, and I get this all the time. And, a lot of times I'll get just reach out to me, but it's such a complex discussion of like, where do I start? And I thought it was good for us to kind of talk about that because you get to see a lot of different folks that want different objectives, right? Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is I would say, and feel free to disagree with me, but it all kind of starts the same way with you have to start building muscle. And that ultimately gets you the results that you need to, but people automatically think, well, hey, I have to shave all my fat off. When yes, you want to obviously get leaner and look good and things like that, but the muscle component is the missing link that I think most people forget about. And I had somebody message me and say, oh my God, I can't believe you're eating 3,000 calories. I'm like, well, it's taken me several years to get to that point to be able to eat 3,000 calories, which by the way, at 3,000 calories, I have dropped 14 pounds so far from my 253 high point. I'm at like 239 now. So definitely looking leaner. I sent you a couple pictures last night. I was checking myself on the mirror and of course sent Ben a picture.
This is where the pictures start to ramp up because as you start to get leaner, you're like,
Ben hasn't seen me in a picture in like 5 months.
Yeah. So I'll get this now. It'll be like once a week plus check-in photos, and then it'll go to like 2 or 3 times a week, and then it'll be like daily updates. So I'm like, yes, it's definitely working.
It's working. It's working.
This part's exciting because you get to see the benefit, or you get to see the byproduct of all the hard work that you've put in. You're like, it'll be a completely different physique whenever we get things done.
Well, I think people, that haven't gone through this before don't understand. It's like it's such a mental roller coaster because you're putting yourself through a sustained fat gain phase, right? And you have to really trust yourself to be able to let yourself get a little bit out of control. It's controlled, but a little bit out of control. And I will say this time around, I didn't feel one lick a bit of a problem with it. I could have kept going for a few more months. The only reason I decided not to is I'm going on vacation here, and then we have the Phoenix event coming up. So, I wanted to be at least relatively leaner, not as lean as I could go, but leaner by the time I get to those locations, especially if I'm going to be on the beach and stuff like that. So, I decided to cut it a little bit short, but I could have went another 6 months of bulking, to be honest with you, and been fine with it. Because I know how easy it is for me right now. Now, again, it's been a lot of time to lose the weight. Like, to drop down to 3,000 calories, I'm enjoying 3,000 calories. Like this is, I can actually enjoy food because I'm not stuffing myself full of food. I'm at a reasonable state where I'm still dropping weight and I have, ample amount of energy. I'm kind of at the ideal situation of where I want to be at. And, but this is, it takes a lot of time to get to this point. But, I had a friend recently post, he said, okay, dumb question time. I'm looking to expand my exercise to build strength a bit. I have no idea how to start. I have access to a small set of weights and could get more if needed. Just trying to increase health, so nothing fancy. Pointers? Anything can be done in a small space would be preferred. Now, you instantly get, from the comment section, 1 million people telling him exactly what he needs to do, right? And, it's like, oh, calisthenics. You absolutely have to do calisthenics. That's the way to do it. You absolutely have to go and do this. Or, just take your weights and go to 15 reps. And I think what, I'd messaged him saying, hey, I'll give you a call a little bit later. And so I'm going to call him. But you have to understand more than just, hey, do this, right? It isn't a do keto and you all of a sudden magically lose weight, or you just start lifting weights every so often and all of a sudden you're going to build muscle and live healthier. You have to start building in regiments and habit forming things that allow you to get to a certain point that creates those habits to allow sustainable increase in health, strength, everything else that goes along there, and the physique that you ultimately want. And there was a Human Labs podcast that I shot you, Ben. We'll link it to the show notes. But what's really interesting about a part of the brain that they just recently actually discovered is that there's a part in the brain that actually grows in size when we do things we don't want to do. Now, that might sound crazy, but what they found in research was people that are highly athletic have these larger brain size, parts of their brain size, and they actually live longer. And what's interesting about that is, our brains at the end of the day are a big bunch of mush with electrons and neurons and all of these other things kind of firing off. And, there's parts of our brain that are our consciousness, I guess, and how we think. But in this specific case, this part of the brain is essentially our will and drive to live. Okay. And when we do hard tasks that we have to learn, it increases the size of this area and allows us to effectively live longer because we actually have drive and purpose. And they've found that athletes have a substantially larger portion of this brain part that, and the names escape me right now. It's some crazy ass name.
I know. I'm not in a position to try and pronounce that, but yeah, I have seen.
No.
I have seen.
Yeah. So, and I'm not a neurologist or anything related to brain, but what's interesting is they found that people that do things they don't want to do, tasks they have to relearn or learn, a new hobby or a new skill, it actually increases our drive and our essentially want to live and our brain's ability to really try to learn those new tasks. And lifting and doing these exercise stuff, no one wants to do it. Like, I don't want to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go down and destroy my legs and be murdered. Now, afterwards, I talk about like, hell yeah, I did. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. But the repetition and the discipline to go and do that, that's where you kind of have to start off at and look at and say, well, how do I make these changes in my life that allow me to be healthier, right? That's the statement. It's not do this or do that or drink this or use this, supplement or lift weights at this rep range. It's getting into habits. And what I'm finding about weightlifting just in general, obviously I'm training a little bit different this time, but it still has the same results. Like, I'm still a big boy. I'm still gaining muscle. I'm still strong. Obviously I was doing something right prior to that, right? And now I'm switching up my routine a bit to do something a little bit different, and we'll see what the results are for that. But the consistency piece and going to the gym and pushing myself and aligning the other habits around sleep and nutrition and everything else, those are the habits that will consistently make you successful in being healthy, getting stronger, living longer, getting the physique that you want to. And it was just interesting because I went through some of the comments on the sections, and by no means am I judging anybody in this case. I just want to be specific. The ones that were like, oh, you absolutely have to do this, I just went through their page and you can see them complaining about them not being strong enough or not being healthy enough or running into issues that they're running into from not seeing the progress that they need, or you can see the progress from one year to the other. And there's minimal difference there, right? And everybody's objectives and goals are different. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But when you say you have to do it this way and that will get you these results, most cases don't believe anything that they're saying, because it's very specific off of you and forming those habits that allow you to be successful, not some specific program or some specific dietary supplement or some specific, type of way of doing things. Like calisthenics can be great. Listen, if I just did body weights the entire time, I'm sure I can get jacked as hell. And there's some jacked people that do calisthenics. Is that going to work for me though? Hell no. I'm not going to sit there and do body weight all day long. I want to lift some big ass weight. I'm not going to sit there and do push-ups the rest of my day. I'll be doing like 500 push-ups. That's miserable. F that. But someone might like doing 500 push-ups. That's cool. If that's what you want to do, fantastic. But that part is the smallest part of the equation, and those habits are the biggest one.
Agree. And there's 2 points that I want to make. Number one, I would never take, and this goes for business. This goes for most things, but specifically business too. I would never take advice off someone who hasn't done the thing. So unless like you look at someone and they go, "Wow, this guy's in incredible shape," and or has at least been in incredible shape at some point, he must at least know what he's talking about. And I think on top of that, the comment shouldn't be "you have to do this." It should be, "I have found great success for this. Maybe you would too." It's like the narrative or the wording around it. I'll also say this, and maybe it'll be a little bit controversial, but I truly believe that the program does not matter. Like the training program does not matter. And I mean, maybe on a very minimal scale, but I think that I could give the same program to 100 different people, and they would all have a completely different result based on their environment, their nutrition, their habits, their behaviors, their start point, their commitment, their mindset. Literally endless amounts of other things that you need to work on first. So to take it right back to what you said that the initial comment was, like, where do you get started? Number one, you need to work out why the fuck you're doing it in the first place. And I don't mean be like, oh, because I want to lose more weight. It's like dig deeper on that. So it's like, okay, I want to lose weight. Why? Why do you want to lose weight? Because I want to be a good role model to my kids. Okay, why do you want to be a good role model? And dig and dig and dig and dig. And the further you can dig yourself into that hole, the more committed and connected to the actual outcome of the whole process in the first place you will be, and you will have more success with that. I can literally guarantee it. I've seen it time and time again. People who just come on board and they just like the idea of it, they just want to be a part of it, or they just need accountability. 99% of the time, all that's bullshit. Somebody who comes in and be like, I was literally about to die and I don't want to die, you're going to be more successful in the journey. Now, it doesn't need to be that extreme, but I'm just going from like my own experience with clients that I have worked with and do still continue to work with. So really attach yourself to why you're trying to do it, because okay, we'll use the new year as an example, and you're like, right, I'm going to get my shit together. I feel like a total bag of dicks after the end of the holidays, and I just want to like get my life together. Cool. You're motivated to do it because you feel like shit, because it's a new year. It's a fresh start. The first day of the year was on a Monday. All the stars have aligned. This is going to be the one. After about 3 weeks, it's going to suck, and you're going to hate it, and you haven't seen the results you thought you were going to get. So you're not as connected. You're like, fuck, I'll just bend it off, or I'll sack it off, or I'll do it tomorrow. So whenever those things start to come into play, or the kids are sick, so you're up all night, so you don't get a good sleep, or your boss is doing your fucking head in, and you have a really tight deadline, so you have to stay up all night doing work. Whatever the thing is, life will throw things at you, and there are the times that you need to be so connected to the thing that you're doing, or the reason that you're doing it is that it doesn't matter what else is going on. You will get up and you will do that shit anyway, regardless of how you feel or anything else that's going on.
Yeah, the immutable aspect of these habits is the most important thing that you can remember. Like the way that I rationalize having to go to the gym is that I do not have a choice. There's no choice. Like I have to wake up and I have to get this out. I look at my schedule and I say, well, I have to be at a customer, at 9:00 in the morning, which means I have a 45-minute drive time, which means I have to take a shower, which means that if I don't do this, then I'm not going to be able to accomplish what I need to do through the day. And the rest of my day is busy. So am I going to either do a super late night lift, or am I going to wake up early and get it lifted and accomplish the day? And so, but it's not a choice. It's either I lift in the morning or I lift in the evening, but I have to lift. Like there's no choice. I don't have a choice in my brain to not go and do that lift, because it's something that I have established as a routine and a habit. And I have enough discipline in myself to say, I'm going to go and do this. Now, if I'm hurt or there's injuries, okay, maybe there's an excuse there to not go and do it. Right. But I am not going to go because I'm not feeling
disagree. Because you can always do something. And I mean, genuinely, like, sure. I've seen this time and time again, because I have had clients be like, if I had this injury in the past, I would have just totally binned it off. But you show me a way that I can still do stuff. And I think that in that situation, the most important part is actually just keeping the consistency. So like, even if your arm has fallen off, you can still go and do some air squats. It doesn't, there is always something that you can do. And even like on top of that, like I've had a couple of clients recently literally start a couple of weeks or months before they go in for some major surgery, with the understanding that they're actually not going to be able to do anything. Like they will, they're recovering from surgery, but there are other things that we can focus on. We can focus on nutrition. We can focus on sleep. We can focus on time management. We can focus on routine, and that's amounts of other things. So injury is not an excuse either. There's other things you can do. Sorry.
No, and I agree. And I'm saying more so like overuse and things like that. Like, but like you're absolutely right as far as getting heart rate up, getting the blood flowing, being able to go out there, even just getting steps in and walking, like those types of things can have a big impact, right? But I don't have a choice. It's immutable. It's not something that will ever change or can be changed based off of how I'm feeling, right? Even when I had, I got COVID during the holidays, around Christmas Day. Guess where I was at with COVID? I was in the gym. Now, was it the best lift I've ever had in my life? Nope. Sure as hell wasn't, but I was there.
Also, I mean, there was nobody else in your gym, so that was okay. Don't go to a public gym if you've got COVID. That's not. We do not recommend that.
Yes, I was at my own gym in my personal spot doing this. I wasn't around anybody else. But I focused on obviously still getting there and getting my lift in, and those are the types of things that we have to battle with ourselves too, and get through those struggles to build those. So, going back to that question from my friend, it's not a dumb question to ask, how do I get help? But to me, it's a dumb response to say, well, you have to do it this way, because there's so many ways of doing things differently, but it all comes down to establishing habits, building a foundation for those, and then being able to address those with yourself and making those habits not be an option. And that's where I think most people get into it, is like they get into this habit and they're like, I'll edit. And then all of a sudden, they miss a couple of days, like, I'm done, or they go back one day and they're like, this sucks again. I'm not feeling it. I'm just not gonna come back. Whereas, buddy of mine here that works at Trusted Sec, just texted me today. He's like, thank you for how I feel today. I feel absolutely miserable. I'm completely sore and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, the soreness goes away if you stay consistent. So let me know when you're not sore, because that's when you actually started to develop this as a habit. And, it's those types of things. And if you've never done this before, and this is the first time you're really committed to this, I would say that it does take time for you to enjoy lifting. You might get some immediate dopamine hits, by going to the gym and then being able to accomplish that, right? That's one. So you come out very proud of yourself, but it quickly fades. And then you start to hate it, especially if you're going super early in the morning and you're just like dreading life. You're like, I don't even fucking want to go in the gym. It does change. Your body finally accepts it. Your mind finally accepts it and says, okay, this is a habit. I need to do this. Okay, it's good for me. I'm going to continue to do this because it's now part of my routine. So it could take a couple weeks, it could take a couple months. Usually within a couple months, though, you start to get into a regimen that you do enjoy. You just have to push yourself through that and say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this and I don't have a choice. Like Monday, I went to Orange Theory and I just wasn't feeling it, man. Like I was just like dragging ass, tired, and I was just like, I can easily just sleep in right now and it's not going to be a big deal. I'm like, but no, I can't actually sleep in right now because I have to do this. This is part of my regiment. So stop being a bitch and get up and go and do it. And I went and I did it. And was it my best time ever? No, but I still got my cardio and my heart rate. I was still in, zone 4, zone 5, cardiovascular wise. I dropped a huge sweat. I wasn't PRing that day, but at the same time, I definitely got my ass worked out. I burned, 500 calories. So, those are the things that create the success of these types of situations, not calisthenics or, lifting heavy or not lifting heavy. These, at the end of the day, don't really matter as long as you're being consistent with it. And then you start to find out what works for you. And that's what ends up working.
Yeah, agreed. I listened to a podcast a couple of days ago. I think it was Andy Frisell, and he talked about how hard is inevitable. And what he means by that is, regardless of when you choose that to be, there will be hard, difficult things in your life. So his choice is do the hard stuff now so that you don't have to deal with the hard things later on. So if you live your life and you think everything's going to be okay and you don't take control of your health and you don't look after yourself and you eat like an asshole and whatever else, you will deal with some seriously hard shit down the line because your life will be fucking miserable. You'll be in pain, you'll be overweight, whatever the thing might be. So the choice is to do the hard stuff now so that you can at least try and curb some of that you don't have to deal with it as much down the line. I thought that was a pretty good way to frame it.
Yeah. I mean, and it was crazy about like when you start actually accomplishing some of these things, and being successful, you will notice a difference. And there are times though, when you start getting into this, like you're like 3.5 years in, unless you're doing some severe cutting and bulking, you don't really notice that big of a difference.
Yeah.
You feel like you kind of hit a certain point where you're like, is it actually, can I go any further than this? Right. And you almost have to push yourself in a whole different direction to get to that point. Right. And that's why obviously the bulking phase of adding fat and muscle at the same time and cutting it down keeps it exciting and fun, and trying new programs like we're talking about with the Chris Bumstead stuff, new and exciting, something different that I haven't tried before. Just like, the first time you put me through the hell of German volume training, it's like you try different things to keep you obviously interested in it, but also keep the progress moving forward and what best works for you. I was watching a Sam Sulek video the other day, of course, and Sam switched to his different regiments, and Sam's big thing is like just go all out all the time. So have a warm up set, but then just your next set you just go to failure. Next set go to failure. Next set go to failure. Next set go to failure. You keep going failure. And his new one is he's doing less of that. He's doing more heavier with still decent rep ranges, but not going to failure every time because he looks at recovery differently now. He's like more I want to recover faster to be able to go and do more lifting. So you kind of play with these different things that works for you and where you start to see successes with, but you can't get to that point unless you put the time in. And it all starts off with, what I would have recommended to this person is, hey, let me understand your schedule. And that's one thing you did really well when you first talked to me, when you first talked to a lot of the other folks out there, is you're like, hey, what's your schedule look like? How much time can you dedicate?
This is Dave's next move into taking over the coaching business. This is all happening. You're seeing
I know where my spot's at in cybersecurity. I'm good there.
Everybody's seeing it unfold week by week of like the move.
By the way, I'm gonna be DK training, DK bot training. So,
you should set that page up as a parody account.
Yeah. It'd be some like obnoxious a-hole. It'd be my alternate personality, like the exact opposite of me, like the polar opposite. I'll just be like a total meathead, and I'm gonna give form feedback to random people that don't want it.
Yeah, bro, you're doing this fucking wrong.
Bro, you're doing this wrong.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, though, like what you did really well when you first met with me for the first time is understand where I'm at in my life cycle, my health, right? And what my job is like and what I do on a regular basis. And then from there, kind of building a program on it. That's the answer. It's starting the small things. Like if you can only dedicate a half hour a week to health, I'd say you're not accurate there. You can definitely dedicate more time. However, let's start off there and see what happens, right? If you can dedicate a half hour a day to just walking, fantastic. Okay, let's start there. Or if you can dedicate, 2 lifting sessions a week, absolutely fantastic. If you do 3 times, man, you're perfect. 3 is great. Like do 3 full body exercises, 3 times a week, and you will see the results fly off the freaking charts.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it doesn't require a lot of time. And again, people, would ask me how long would I spend at the gym? And I'd say an hour and a half to 2 hours. But what I'm realizing very quickly is that's not necessary at all. I mean, 45 minutes at the gym at a decent intensity, that's all you need a day or a week, 3 times a week. You can literally do 45 minutes of workouts and have some substantial results. So if you can't dedicate 2 times a week or 3 times a week for 45 minutes, I'd be curious what your schedule actually looks like. Like you got that time. You just have to prioritize it in what you're actually doing. And so my response back to that individual would be like, listen, I have no idea how to start. Let me talk to you about where you're at, how much time you can dedicate. Let's get you into a system that allows you to understand what you're eating, number 1. And 2, like, let's get you into some regular routines that you can do on a regular basis. And what works for you? What kind of equipment do you have? What do you have access to? If it's a couple weights, cool. Let's figure this out, and start to build, your program around that. And I think that's where most people really fail is, how do I start?
Well, I think just start is the key, and work it out as you go. One of the big things that I would do and challenge people on whenever they tell me that they don't have time or they only have half an hour a week or whatever, the best place to start in working out where you have time leaks is in your phone, where it literally tells you where you spend your most time. Like I can look at my phone right now and I have 3 hours and 26 minutes on my phone today. I mean, a lot of that I definitely could have been doing something more useful. Like some of it I have to do it for work and whatever.
Well, some of it was me talking and complaining about how bad the workout was.
3 hours and 24 minutes of it was talking to Dave, but the other 2 minutes. But no, but like looking at social.
How do I get upstairs and get to my place? I can't do this.
Dave's now going to knock his house down and build it into a bungalow.
Yeah.
But yes, like the thing, like look at those things and actually look practically at it. Like where are you actually spending your time? And the flip side of that is like, what can you do to delegate your time a little bit more? And this is something that I'm sort of trying to get into more myself. It's like, if I look at my days and my weeks, like how can I delegate tasks? I realize not everybody's in a position to do that, and fair, but what's important, what's not important, what can you get rid of, what can you prioritize your own fucking health and future of yourself over? I mean, in my head, pretty much everything. And as I said, it doesn't need to be the 2 or 3 hours. And actually, I hope he doesn't mind me sharing, but I'm going to anyway. I've just had a message from Adam a couple of hours ago, basically saying that he's at the stage now where he realizes he doesn't have the mental capacity to be focused in the gym for 90 minutes to 2 hours like he used to. And this is something I went through myself recently, not in terms of like mental capacity, but more of like I just don't have the capacity to train the way that I used to whenever I used to work in the gym. And it was tough because I was like, well, I know this thing works because I have a stack of evidence and pictures of me far too tan and far too little hair on my body to prove that this thing definitely does work. But I was a different person then. I lived a different life. I had different responsibilities or no responsibilities whatsoever. And I'm coming away from that and having to relearn how to train in a slightly different way and understanding that I actually don't need to do it that way. And there's thousands of other ways. Although it was difficult for me, it was a good lesson for me that I can also go and share with clients. So it's like, detach from potentially things that you used to know, or detach from the fact it's going to take hours and hours and hours and hours. As we've said, both of us are on a mission to be more efficient with our training this year. And I'll go back to the point that you said there about the sort of seeing people from year to year. I'm going to just say my feeling towards the end of last year was I didn't make as much progress as I would have liked. Now, what I will say about that is nobody is to blame but me. I had a huge amount of progress in other areas of my life, and that was my focus. So while I can be pissed off that I didn't make the progress, it was me that didn't do the work to deserve the progress. So my focus this year is going to be to ensure that I am happy, or at least more content with the progress that I make whenever it comes to the end of this year, because it's something that I pissed off's maybe not the word, but it was an observation that I made. I know I could be in a much better position at the end of this year. So the focus this year in terms of myself, and I've mapped my schedule around it, is actually getting the training in, training at a higher intensity, and making some serious progress in terms of this year.
So I just heard 10-month bulk.
Oh, you're just obsessed with eating calories. That's all it is.
Dude, I just saw the results of what I got, and I know I can just shape, like, if I could drop 14 pounds in a couple of weeks. I mean, come on. Like,
well, to be fair, I was. Let me see where we're at. So I was 213 pounds this morning. Whenever I started the cut, I was 234. So I've dropped 21 pounds in, I'm going to say 5 weeks-ish, 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
5 or 6 weeks. And we've got 7 weeks until we go to Phoenix. And I may not be, quote unquote, as big as I want to be, but I know sure as shit I can watch endless amounts of cooking videos and I will be as lean as I possibly can be by then. And the deal that I will make with you right now and everybody else who's listening, if I can get to a place where I am confident and comfortable about how lean I am, we will then move into a slight surplus from that point. Not, okay, now we're going to eat 4,000 calories, but I'll maintain the leanness throughout the process. And truthfully, I think this is one of the biggest things that I was lacking whenever we did this the last time. I left it too long between being lean and then like not really being lean to push into it. So I was like, I need to go back to like starting off in a leaner position. And only because I know then there's more longevity in that process as a whole. So, I mean, I feel like even like I'm approaching the weight where I'm like, you know, whenever Arnold does the videos and he's taking the piss, he says like, if you're below 200 pounds, you're at victim weight. I'm like, shit, I'm not that far away from that. Like, I can't go below that. But no, I'm kidding. But yes, like I want to be in a position where I am lean and like obviously I have the time frame to do it, and I know I have the tools to do it. So when we get to Phoenix, we'll assess, and then if it is a case of moving into a slight surplus, then I'm more than happy to do that, and that will be essentially from March until whenever you want, which could be 10 months if you want.
So moving on to another really quick topic before we finish up and wrap up the podcast. We only got about 10
minutes. You didn't give me any
left.
feedback on that? Yes, no, okay, good idea.
I 100% think it's a good plan. I think that you can absolutely push yourself much further in a phase that allows you to gain much more weight. And you know, your comfort zone is being lean, and you like being lean, and rightfully so. You look great, but I think you could definitely. I think you should put a timetable next time and say it's going to be 6 months.
Okay, well, you put the timetable. You set the timetable. You set the timetable. I'm the structure.
Okay.
But we need more guidelines.
I don't care if you start to be like, I'm so big now. I can't. Kay doesn't even want to like talk to me. Don't care. It's 6 months. Like divorce or whatever. Hell, high water. Trish can come over and fight me. It's 6 months. 6 months.
I mean, plus I'll say this and I'll say no more. Like the next super secret thing, and the introduction of that thing could be a motivation to be in shape.
Agreed. We'll both be there. I'm feeling pretty damn good right now, and I'm fitting back into my tailored athlete shirts again. So that's great.
What about this? And one last thing. I put up a photo. I think it was like 1st or 2nd of January, and I was in the gym, and Louise is hilarious. I will say, potentially one of the funniest clients I'd ever had. Replied being like,
amazing.
How like who the fuck loses weight? Who the fuck loses pounds over the holidays? And I was like, in my head, first of all, was like, do I look skinny? That was my first thought, and then I was like, well, thanks. And then I was like, I'll not get into it. Like, I'll not tell you how many I've lost. And she was like, I'm guessing about 14. And I was like, fucking hell, absolutely bang on. I was like, absolutely fucking nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, like I said, I think you could go a lot further with the push. I think you can.
Well, I think you could go a lot further in the cut. So there's your challenge. You feel comfortable in a surplus and pushing that. I feel comfortable in a cut. So we need to change.
I just want to get big. I just want to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Okay. Like, we can do that, but let's get leaner and leaner and leaner first.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll balance it. All right. So before we go off, there was an article that came out from the New York Times a couple of days ago, and I actually liked it. I read through it, and it was released January 4th, 2024. And normally with these quick article type things, I think they focus on the wrong thing, and it's more of a hype thing. Whereas I think this one kind of brought it back down to reality, and it kind of hits along with what we're talking about for that individual we're giving advice to. And it was the 7 keys to longevity. So the 7 keys of living longer. And I thought this was a good 7. So I'd be curious if you would change any of these, disagree with any of these, or would add to some of these. Okay. So number one, move more.
Yeah, agree.
Moving around just by walking. There was some good data studies on just people that would sprint twice a day up and down the steps just once, like reduce their cardiovascular risk by like 70%. It's like that big of a difference just by moving your blood and getting your blood pumping and you using your body the way that it was intended to. So number 1, move more. Number 2, eat more fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, agreed.
And the reason they say this is the experts didn't recommend one specific diet over another, but they generally advised eating more moderation and aiming for more fruits and vegetables and fewer processed foods, which such as the Mediterranean diet prioritizes fresh produce in addition to whole grains, legumes, nuts, fish, and olive oil, is a good model for healthy eating and has been shown to lower the risk of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and dementia. Some experts say that maintaining a healthy weight is important for longevity, but Dr. John Rowe, a professor of health policy and aging in Columbia University, that's less of a concern, especially as people enter old age. I was more worried about my patients who lost weight than my patients who gained weight. So eat more fruits and vegetables or more whole foods / non-processed foods. Couldn't agree more.
Exactly what we're doing. And in January, like I've been eating, I was actually going to text you earlier on, being like, how many blueberries have you eaten today? I've eaten many blueberries today.
That's funny. I have not eaten any blueberries today, and I need to.
Yeah.
I have. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you. I won't lie to you. So I was in such a hurry today that I had a protein shake and a Pop-Tart. That's all I had enough time for, and I needed the carbs. I was dead.
Great.
I needed the glycogen store replacement.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. But I think truthfully,
I'm like 400 calories in right now today, and I'm like dying here. Like I need some sort of food. So I DoorDashed while we're in the middle of our conversation. So I hopefully have some rice and chicken.
Two points in that. Number 1, I think that's a good point. Like it's not always realistic to eat completely whole foods. And I had a call with Tyler earlier on, and he's going a little bit more extreme and more like leaning into the carnivore diet, which is absolutely fine. He's trying it out, but he's like, this is not something I could do long term. But
yeah,
it has definitely made me realize that I can make improvements in places that I was just eating out of convenience. The second thing is I've only had 4 eggs today and some almond butter that I had as a snack. Oh, and some roast beef. So I'm about 550 calories in, and I feel so much better on slightly lower calories. So I think that's why I am like, I can manage the cut well, because I just feel like I am a little bit more in tune with everything, or I can manage things a little bit differently. Like I definitely do. I would not recommend anybody just eat 500 calories, by the way, before people like, Ben told me to eat 500 calories a day. That's not saying I'm going to have a dinner after this, promise.
Yeah. There are some key benefits to like doing like a day, 24-hour, 48-hour fast too. just kind of keep things going and your body recycling and stuff. But okay, so number 3 was get enough sleep. Oh my God, I think that should be number 1.
I think that should be number 1 as well.
Yeah. I mean, sleep is so critical for our bodies to be able to repair. And it's one of the areas that almost all of us, if you look, consistently lack in. Minimally 6 hours of sleep, but 6 to 7 to 8 hours is kind of the best, routine. I find that 7 hours is like my sweet spot. So 7 hours of sleep is usually where I feel pretty decent at and I feel fully recovered. Anything less than, anything more than that just tends to not be great.
Yeah. And I think,
and it's actually indicated in my scoring for what I look at in my recovery and my HRV, heart rate variability. You can definitely tell I'm not fully recovered days that I don't get good sleep.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think I stole this from Matt in the conversation that we had, excuse me, around environmental and biological art. One big thing that he used to tell his coaching clients, he doesn't coach in the same capacity that I do now, is like set yourself a bedtime. It's like as adults, like, as kids have bedtimes. Like as adults, we don't have a bedtime. So set yourself a bedtime and set yourself a week time and stick to those as much as possible. Like you think. Well, actually, I put this in the productivity guide that will be released on the 22nd. Everybody can have it. I'll drop a link. But if you think about your wake schedule and say, for example, you get up at 6 a.m. Monday to Friday, and then you get up at 9 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday, essentially that's like living in Ohio Monday to Friday and then living in LA on Saturday and Sunday with the time difference. Like you're basically giving yourself jet lag without having to get on a flight, like just with the time difference. So maintain the same or similar wake time every single day and definitely the same bedtime as well. So set yourself a bedtime.
100% agree. Yeah, I have a bedtime and it's usually a window period. So usually between 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock is my window to go to bed. And sometimes it's earlier than that. Last night I was in bed by 9:30. I know I was feeling kind of tired, got everything done. And I was like, all right. And I knew I had to wake up early the next morning at 5 to go and get it. So I went to bed a little bit earlier just to make sure I had enough time.
Good.
All right. So number 4, which I fully agree with myself, is don't smoke and don't drink too much either.
Agree.
Yeah. And so on that, we're starting to understand how bad, this is from the article, we're starting to understand how bad excessive alcohol use is as well. More than 1 drink per day for women and 2 for men, and possibly even less than that, raises the risk for heart disease and atrial fibrillation, liver disease, and 7 types of cancer. There was a study that came out that showed that 1 glass of wine or 1 shot of whiskey a day, increased your health and longevity. That turned out to be not accurate. Alcohol in any capacity is not great for you in any way, shape, or form. So stay away from it.
Agree.
Manage your chronic conditions. So nearly half of American adults have hypertension, 40% have high cholesterol, and more than 1/3 have, this is mind blowing. It almost makes you want to cry basically, but more than 1/3 of the population have prediabetes. All the healthy behaviors mentioned above will help manage these conditions and prevent them from developing even furthermore into serious diseases. But sometimes lifestyle interventions aren't enough. That's why experts, say it's critical to follow your doctor's advice and keeping them under control. For me, I'm a big advocate of taking medicine for point things that can help you. Like for example, metformin has substantial data around longevity increases in life for those that have type 1 and type 2 diabetes. All right. So, if you're using metformin, your ability to live longer with that disease is increased through data. Now, obviously, lifestyle conditions, everything else might help you drop and maybe even come out of the diabetes effort and more towards insulin sensitivity and your ability to really handle those types of foods. But at the end of the day, it might not, and that's where medication can definitely come into play. I take telmisartan and Ozempic just as a precautionary that helps balance LDL and HDL cholesterol levels. It's just preventative. It has nothing to do with specific conditions, but I know that as I get older, those things will continue to improve, and my ApoB actually dropped down, which is one of the leading indicators or detectors of cardiovascular risk. And I think mine's like a 32, and below 60 is considered top notch or gold standard. So those types of things you can help manage your chronic conditions, and everybody has different dispositions, different chronic conditions, different areas of issue. I had a heart issue. I had to get a ablation done to fix what's called low atrial fibrillation. We all run into different areas, but managing those chronic conditions to keep them under check is extremely important.
Agree. And I mean, if you think about the people that means that are in pre-diabetic, like do something about it. There are things that you can do to manage it. Just don't accept it, and then obviously it will progress over time.
Yep. Now here's where I really like the article. Okay, because 6 and 7 have nothing to do about medicine, moving, sleep, anything. Nutrition has nothing to do with any of those. And that's why I thought this was a really strong article. And this was written by Dana Smith, a reporter for the Well section. Number 6 was prioritize your relationships.
Okay.
Psychological health often takes a backseat to physical health, but Dr. Chang said it's just as important. Isolation and loneliness is as big of a detriment to our health as is smoking. That's a crazy statement right there. She said adding that puts a higher risk of dementia, heart disease, and stroke. Relationships are key to not only living healthier, but also happier. According to a Harvard study of adult development, strong relationships are the biggest predictor of well-being. Think about that. Strong relationships are the biggest predictor of well-being. Dr. Rowe tells the medical students he teaches that one of the best indicators of how well an elderly patient will be faring in 6 months is to ask them how many friends or family he's seen in the last week.
Agree.
Relationships,
and I think that
people. We are a tribal group.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely applicable to the listeners and the industry type people, for sure.
The technological age where we're disjointed from people and not talking to people, we don't get the same type of relationships, and that's very unhealthy.
I actually had this conversation with Kira a couple of weeks ago, and she was actually there at the moment where I had the realization when we were at the Belfast event. Not to bring it up that you weren't there, but you weren't there. And that's just not why I'm thinking about this. But
by the way, not to interrupt you, but I think we're planning an Ireland trip this year for the kids and family.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
that's right.
Just Southern Ireland, though. We're not coming to Northern.
That's okay. That's fine. I'll make sure that they're not doing that yet. But there was a moment at the Belfast event I remember very specifically. I was sat on the sofa, and Kira was there, and I'm almost certain Sean was there, and there were a couple of people around. And I was like the connection piece. Like I was like, this is number one why I do what I do, but number two, what I need to do more of is like the connect. Like yes, okay, I can have calls with people, and we can have weekly group calls and whatever else, but the actual in-person stuff and the in between conversations that don't happen when you're like, I've got to go another call, I've got to go another call. Like that to me is like my happy place whenever it comes to coaching. So something else I want to do more of.
You know, what's interesting with that is during New Year's, we went over a couple of friends' houses that, are close friends. And as the ball was dropping, everybody is focused on the TV and everything else. And we're all enjoying the moment. That's not a knock. But I took a step back and I'm like, I love this. I love that I'm surrounded with my kids, my friends' kids, my family, and we're having a great time together celebrating this one moment in time. And we don't often get to do that very often anymore, just based on everybody's busy schedules, the technology, everything else. And I was actually watching a movie called The Iron Claw, which I heavily recommend going and seeing. Man, it is a jacked up movie, first of all, but it's good enough for kids. I would say like teenagers are fine for this. There's no like actual like boobies or things like that. It's just more of like, there's like a sex scene that gets a little bit awkward. My son's like, I'm like, Mason, close your eyes, but it wasn't bad. He didn't see anything. It was just the sounds. So anyways, when you have kids, you got to deal with, right? But it was about this wrestling family, and they just had like one catastrophe after another. It's just like kid after kid dying, suicide, drugs, accidents, whatever. And there was I don't want to ruin the movie. It's based on a true story, so obviously it's out there. But at the very end, one of the surviving brothers is watching his two sons playing together, and he starts crying, breaking down and crying. And the kids come up to him, and again, this is based on a true story. They interviewed, the one son, and the two little kids, probably, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, walk up to his dad. Dad, why are you crying? And the father says, I used to be a brother at one point in time, but I'm no longer a brother anymore. And just watching you kids, reminds me of when I had brothers, because he had no more brothers. They had all died. And the kids were like, we'll be your brother too, Dad, and give him a big hug. It was a big moment, right? But it also really brought you back to the 80s, the early 80s, mid 80s, and late 80s and early 90s, where we didn't have these phones and technology, and you see kids just out at arcades and dances and socializing with people. And, the whole family, when the brothers were all sitting there playing football and tackling each other and having fun and going out and grabbing beers, you lose a lot of that human element that we had back then to today. And that really is because of technology and our distancing with people. And I really hope that we bounce back to a society that allows us to have those really personal relationships where we're not so busy. And I've been honestly contemplating only checking my phone 3 times a day, just to detach myself from what's going on, because that really isn't reality. Reality is what I see in front of me today. What's in front of me as far as human interaction, not this device here that funnels in all the data. We're never designed to do that. So I'm going to be trying to wean myself back a bit to not really live off of the notifications, and really starting to do that. So we'll see how this goes.
Agree?
Yeah. All right. The last one was cultivate a positive mindset. Even thinking positively can help you live longer. Several studies have found that optimism is associated with a lower risk of heart disease, and people who score highly on tests of optimism live 5 to 15% longer than people who are pessimistic. Think about that. 15% longer to those who are pessimistic. It may be because optimists tend to have healthier habits and lower rates of chronic diseases, but even when accounting for those factors, the research shows that people who think positive still live longer. If you had to pick one healthy practice for longevity, do some version of physical activity, Dr. Moore said. If you can't do that, focus on being positive. That's how I live my whole life. My whole life is about positivity, helping others, not being negative. And
that's why you're going to live to be 147 years old.
That's right. I'm going to 147. Are you serious? I'm going 200. I'm going 200, man. Come on, get out of here. But yeah, I thought that was a really good article.
Yeah,
well done.
Great. Will you send me the link so I can drop it in the show notes?
Absolutely not. I just made that whole thing up.
You've just actually written the article. It was written by Dave Kennedy.
Generative AI, baby. Generative AI.
Right. Well, thanks for listening. David, full disclosure, Dave and I literally clicked record and had no idea what we were going to talk about, but we managed to fill an hour, and hopefully it was in some way worthwhile.
YOLO. You only live once.
No, you get to live every single day. You don't live once, you live every single day. You only die once.
That's right.
So
that's right. I don't plan on ever doing that, so we'll see.
Never, ever. You only die once, but not me. I'm not going to.
Not me. Everybody else might, but not me. So.
Right. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week. Check us out at WeHackHealth. Stay tuned for lots of other resources, some productivity PDFs, some 7-day webinars. Dave's going to be the star of the show at the end of it. Check out the health app that's coming soon in terms of like sort of scoring where you're at and managing your sort of overall score and how you can make improvements on that. Everything is to come soon. Be in the Discord. See you next week.
Later.